Okay. Good evening, everybody. We are so excited this evening to be here to present for our parent workshop. This year, we're doing our special series, which will take all of our families through the different specials that their children will engage in. Our presentation this evening is going to focus on our world language program. So I'd like to take a moment to introduce myself and some of our other presenters. I'm Dr. Jeanette Wojcik. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Elementary Curriculum Instruction and Assessment here in Syosset. Dr. Balsamo, you're on mute.
There we go. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I'm David Balsamo. I'm the World Language Coordinator.
I'm Christina Arata, Flex teacher at Berry Hill.
I'm Abigail Marr. I am the Flex teacher at Robbins Lane.
And good evening. I'm Emily Nigro, the Flex teacher at South Grove.
So we're really excited to have you here this evening to join us. Before we do, just a few housekeeping items. Some of them I've already said, but welcome to everybody who's here with us this evening. Please be sure to mute your microphone so that we can have the presenters' full volume. The meeting is being recorded, as I did share. And to ask any questions, we just ask that you use the Q&A function, which you will find in your meeting tools. So you'll see, depending on your screen, you'll see a waffle that has 9 little dots. If you click on that, those are your meeting tools. And in there, I took a screenshot for you here on the bottom. It says Q&A. If you click there, you can certainly ask any questions that you may have as the presentation is going on. I'll be moderating the chat and answering any questions that may come up. So once again, thank you for joining us. I'm just going to admit our last participant here and we'll get started. So we are really excited for you to be joining us this evening to talk all about our world language program. One of the things we're really proud of is the alignment of our program to both our mission statement as well as our vision statement, just to make sure that all of our students are able to thrive in a future we've yet to imagine. And our world language program really does a great job at providing opportunities for our students to develop global awareness, global competence, and really connecting with their community. We are really excited to share why it is we believe in this K-12 program. You may also, we call it our world language program, but you may also notice that we may use the words flex. So just to be clear, Flex is a foreign language experience program. And I know Dr. Balsamo will talk more about it, but I did want to just share that so that when you see those words flex, you understand that it's a foreign language experience program designed to provide all types of cultural experiences for our students, not necessarily about language proficiency, and that is a difference between the elementary and the secondary, which we'll explore more. But why do we involve and include world languages? Well, we really believe that learning a language and cultural competence is good for the brain. It engages all learners in understanding all different cultures and perspectives around them. It does have practical reasons, and Dr. Balsamo will talk more about that, but it definitely supports college and career readiness and develops all types of skills for students. And more recently, we definitely see that there's a connection with world language and global competence to all of the things we want our students to become. Academically prepared students, we want students to be global citizens. We want them to be effective communicators. And our world language program does a beautiful job at ensuring that students have the skills they need in order to be successful in our world. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Balsamo.
Thanks, Dr. Wojcik. So we're going to speak extensively about our elementary world language program in this presentation, but I want to show you how that fits within the overall study of world languages in the school district from grades K through 12. Learners explore a variety of languages and cultures in grades K through 5 in our FLEX program, which, as Dr. Wojcik said, stands for Foreign Language Experience Program. The articulated study of one language begins in 6th grade, and the current options for that are French, Chinese, Italian, Korean, or Spanish. Learners develop novice level skills in grades 6 through 8, which is middle school, right? We call that checkpoint A in New York State. High school students continue in their language, and with the additional offering of American Sign Language at the high school as an option. By graduation, learners move through the intermediate level of proficiency. And the capstone of our program is earning the New York State Seal of Biliteracy, which is a designation indicating a high level of proficiency in both English and another language. But we'll get into that later. Right now, we're going to talk about our FLEX program, our elementary program. So we're ready for the next slide. Syosset's elementary program, Syosset students begin their journey in the FLEX program in kindergarten. Students are scheduled for a FLEX session once on a 6-day cycle, so once every 6 days. And rather than focus on one language in particular, our FLEX program engages learners in understanding a broad range of languages and cultures. American Sign Language is the focus of the program in kindergarten and first grade. Then in grades 2 and 3, learners explore a series of topics centered on Asian languages and cultures. And then in grades 4 and 5, the cultural context is European or Romance languages and cultures. In addition to developing skills about these cultures, students also learn a little bit about the languages, the geography, which is another goal of the program. And again, overall, what we want to do in the elementary program is give students a good understanding of what they might want to learn in the articulated program when they get to 6th grade. So the FLEX program also is a good opportunity for that, to give students that sampling of these languages that we offer in the secondary program so that they can make an informed decision when they're ready to make a language choice at the end of 5th grade, right? Because they start their articulated study in 6th grade when they enter middle school. Next slide. So Syosset has a legacy of high quality language instruction rooted in 2 fundamental goals, which are effective communication and intercultural skills, which contributes to being a responsible global citizen. Languages exist in social and cultural contexts, so understanding the products, practices, and perspectives of the target cultures is truly important, especially in relation to our own. They're a key part of global citizenship. Our program empowers students with the skills that define a global citizen, which includes perspective taking, ethical and critical thinking, and respect for diversity. That's demonstrating empathy and respect and curiosity toward people with linguistic and cultural backgrounds that are different from their own. We also honor the rich diversity of our students in the program. We have 22, because in addition to world languages, I also supervise the ENL program in the school district. So I'm familiar with those students, our English language learners as well, and with their needs. We have 22 different home languages spoken in our school district, which is something we celebrate. We have an amazing diversity among our population. And we want to make sure that our values reflect that value, that our classrooms reflect that value of cultural diversity and the home languages that these students speak. And so we want to bring that as a strength in our program and celebrate it. Next slide. That leads well into the idea of cultural competence, right? So you could think of our elementary program as more than just learning new words. It's about building cultural competence at a time when students are at their most curious. We use language as a window to see other cultures and a mirror to better explain our own, moving beyond simple vocabulary to develop deep empathy. This foundation directly supports the New York State Portrait of a Graduate, turning our youngest learners into global citizens and effective communicators. Ultimately, we're giving them the cultural agility they need to thrive, collaborate, and lead in an interconnected world. Next slide. So these are the topics for our program. In grades K and 1, the FLEX program focuses on American Sign Language, which I said earlier, which bolster early literacy skills and the learning of letters and sounds while developing fine motor skills. And you're going to see examples of some of these in action from our teachers who are with us tonight in a few minutes. In grades 2 and 5, the program centers on the list of topics that you see here through the lens of Asian languages and cultures. And then in grades 4 and 5, the lens switches to Romance languages and cultures. Our topic-based approach has proven to be a great way for students to connect personally by sharing their own cultural experiences while comparing them with others around the world. We would like to show the kinds of learning that are at the heart of our program. So next, our teachers are going to walk us through some sample lessons, and that will help illustrate some of the ideas that we've spoken about so far. So first, I'm going to introduce our teachers in the next slide. There we go. So we're going to hear from Miss Marr, who's going to speak about kindergarten and show us a sample lesson in kindergarten. Miss Arata is going to walk us through a 3rd grade sample lesson that focuses on Asian languages and cultures. And then last, Miss Nigro is going to speak about a 4th grade, a lesson about the Olympics. So we're going to start with Miss Marr, and she's going to take it away.
Hi, so once again, I'm Miss Marr. I am in Robbins Lane, but this is also indicative of what goes on in all of the elementary schools. It's not school specific. We all tend to focus on the same topics. For sign language, this is really important. It helps the students develop not only new knowledge, new ways of communicating, new ways of understanding their classmates. It lets them understand how to communicate with those that are differently able than them while also working on their fine motor skills. So we're going to look at a sample ASL lesson. This is going to be a kindergarten lesson. 1st grade follows a very similar lesson structure, but usually includes more advanced signs and more advanced practice activities. In this kindergarten lesson, we're going to focus on colors and feelings. As we can see here, the lesson objectives are students will be able to identify feelings in the target language, and students will be able to express their emotions in the target language. Now let's see how we meet these in our classrooms. Next slide, please. As you can see here, we have a brief explanation of the structure of an ASL lesson. Structuring our lessons in such a way helps our youngest students develop routines, gain knowledge, and increase motor skill functioning and hand-eye coordination. Every class opens and closes with our hello song and a hand warm-up. The hand warm-up activities help students work on their fine motor skills while getting them into the headspace to start using their hands for communication. We always do a short review of the signs from the previous lessons. Then we will use a variety of methods to introduce a new topic and signs of the day. Sometimes this will be through videos, songs, gallery walks, computer activities, read-alouds. After our new topic is introduced, we work as a whole class, with groups, with partners, and finally individually to practice and master our new signs. To gauge student understanding, they will usually end class by completing an assessment activity. In this lesson, we follow the structure. Students enter class and complete our welcome and review activities. Then students come to the carpet for a read aloud of the book, The Color Monster by Anna Yanas. In this lesson, the book introduces the new topics and signs of the day. In this case, that would be emotions. Students had learned colors in a prior lesson, and so while reading, they are asked to show the signs for the colors that appear in the story. Students are also taught new vocabulary through the story as well. They are taught the signs for different emotions and are asked to show those signs as the emotions pop up in the story. After the story, students return to their seats and complete a variety of practice and conversation activities using this new vocabulary. At the end of class, students complete a worksheet where they need to identify different signs of feelings and create a self-portrait of themselves to show how they feel. Our sign language program uses a lot of cross-cutting with other subjects. Often in our classes, we cover topics that are similar to what they're learning with their other teachers. We can see this in this lesson because it focuses on identifying and expressing feelings, which is in line with the social emotional learning students have been working on all year with their classroom teachers and with the school social workers. Next slide, please. Here you can see an example of the assessment. The first task would be for students to create their own graphic representations of the signs. So if you can see on the slide, we have how to do the different signs for the feelings, and then the students have to create their own emojis, their own smiley faces to represent what each one of these mean. Then they will flip their paper over and they have to complete a self-portrait. This self-portrait is a way for them to express themselves freely and creatively, and then they will circle which sign represents the feeling that they drew themselves. And so this not only helps us assess their understanding, but it also helps us assess their emotional state, their social emotional needs while also in class. That's it for our kindergarten lesson. I'm going to now pass this off to Miss Arata to talk about our next sample lesson.
So this is a 3rd grade lesson in the arts bend of the 3rd grade curriculum. And this is going to focus on music and dance across Asia. So it starts in India. We focus on 3 countries for this specific lesson, where we go to India, China, and Japan. So in India, we get to kind of look at Bharatanatyam dancing, mudra hand movements that are used in that, and the students listen to some examples of some sitar music. And then when we go to China, they engage in some ribbon dancing, fan dancing, and listen to the erhu instrument. And then in Japan, they learn how to taiko drum using paper towel rolls. So as we go through this, we can go to the next slide. So here's the Indian Bharatanatyam dancing, and we talk about how everything tells a story through the hand movements. They watch a video of this style of dance, and then go to the next slide. And then they learn the different mudra hand movements and what they mean. So they go through, they practice them with each other and with me. Then we can go to the next slide. And then we start to listen to an example of sitar music. We evaluate the similarities and differences in the instrument itself, what it looks like, how it's played, and kind of make connections to instruments that the students are learning how to play or have seen before, as well as the way that the music sounds and what does it remind you of, what kind of feelings does it evoke. So that's an example of the beginning of the lesson just in India, and then we go into the similarities and differences between music and dance in India and China and then Japan. That's one of our 3rd grade lessons, and I'm going to hand it over to Ms. Nigro.
So we like to, in our department, we know that languages aren't in a vacuum, so we try to pull the outside world into our lessons, into what we do in the classroom. So especially since last month, the Olympics were just occurring in both Milano and Cortina, we focused a lot on the Olympic Games with our students and how geography affects not only the sports that you play, but the clothes that you wear, the food that you eat, and your everyday life. So we looked at this through the lens of the Olympics 2026. So we started by going through the history and the global importance of the Olympics, why they exist. Next, we focused on the Italian language a little bit, and students learned specific vocabulary for this lesson. So we did this through comprehensible input strategies, through storytelling to give the vocabulary in a meaningful context for students. We did total physical response lessons where students had hand motions to help them remember the different vocabulary words. For geography terms, for some sports vocabulary. And we also try to utilize, specifically in the Romance languages, cognates, or words that they may recognize in English or other languages they may already know, because this helps students remember those words better and draw connections between languages. Next, students were able to analyze real climate and geographic data to decide which city they thought would be the best next host city for either the winter or summer games. We do this because we also try to, like Ms. Marr and Ms. Arata said, we try to supplement what students are doing with their classroom teachers and reinforce some of those topics they're already doing. So, using real maps and physical traits of the countries, we were able to do that. And then finally, students moved to the action part of the lesson, right? So they were able to create an Olympic bid proposal. They had to use their persuasive speaking skills and persuasive writing skills on why their city would be the best host city. They would use the Italian language structures that we learned together in the TPRS lessons. And then we would utilize all their geography, science, and persuasive writing that we did both in the classroom and in the world language classroom. So on the next slide, you can see this lesson a little bit more in action. So you can see students collecting data. They were able to go back to their group and have relevant conversations on, oh, this city would be a great host city because look at its geography, look at all the mountains it has, look at its temperature. Whereas, oh, I don't know if this city would be a great match. They were then able to come to a consensus as a group and start creating a poster For their city, they would then use other skills as well. They would learn more about the culture of that city. So not only its geography, but what foods are important in that city, what are some sites to see, and this could help enhance not only their own learning, but their poster as well. So this is just a quick snippet of an example lesson that we do in the 4th grade world language classroom.
So how parents can support at home. So the biggest suggestion that we have is to ask your child what they've learned lately in their ASL or their world language class, to get them to talk about and think and reflect back on what they're learning. We do spend time on geography. And so there's this World Geography Games website the students are very engaged in. All of the teachers across the district have Google Classrooms that we share with the students. There are many resources linked in there. We suggest that you listen to music and watch content in other languages. I know that for my children, I've always watched Disney movies. You can dub them into many different languages, which they find funny because they're familiar. Apps like Duolingo, especially because they're kind of gamified for kids. They like to have their streak continue to grow. Encourage use of your heritage language at home. We also have Culturegrams, which is in ClassLink. This is a tool that we use as teachers with the students that they can access on their Chromebooks, and they can click through and really discover all of the different countries of the world and what makes them, there's specifically for children, so that's at their level, and what makes each one of these countries and their cultures special and different. The Syosset Public Library has an app called LOTE for Kids, so languages other than English for kids, and it has books in every language, and that is free for anyone with a library card. So you put your library number in and you can access all of the books in different languages. Travel whenever able, and encourage the use of a few phrases in the language where you're visiting. Very easy to use Google Translate to come up with, hello and how are you and thank you in different languages. And each school has their own version of these PTA multicultural events. Some are during the school day, some are at night, but definitely, take your children to those multicultural events. It's nice to be able to see the cultures that are represented within our own district.
So as you can see through the sharing that Dr. Balsamo did on the philosophy of the program and the content as students move from elementary to middle and high school, and through the examples that our fabulous teachers have shared this evening, you can see that the focus on elementary, our foreign language experience, is less about language proficiency, although there's opportunities for students to hear the different languages that they're learning about, and to practice some basic words and phrases in the language. Our report card and how students are measured, it's dependent upon where they fall in this rubric and these categories, but you can see it's not about language proficiency. It's really about appreciation of language and culture, thinking about how students identify different aspects of the target culture. They demonstrate awareness, and then in some cases identify some of the specific languages that they may speak. Thinking specifically about how they might make connections to themselves and the culture, the target language that they're learning about. So thinking about what they have as far as the connections to their own lives, to the English language or culture we have here, and then any other cross-curricular connections. You heard from our teachers how we bring in other content areas, whether they're studying maps or looking at geography or learning about dance or music, how they bring those content areas in. And then, of course, how they participate. Are they engaged? Are they doing their assignments? Are they working in groups? Oftentimes, our world language teachers engage students in group learning. So how are they working as teams? How are they engaging in the material? How are they discussing the cultures and the target language with the other students and their teacher? How might they ask questions to learn more? So our report cards really center around those three aspects, about appreciation, making connections, and then of course participating and engaging in the content.
So I want to thank our teachers, Ms. Nigro, Ms. Mayer, and Ms. Arata for their help in putting this presentation together and for their comments tonight and for going through their sample lessons with us. Thank you again to the three of you, and also all of our Flex teachers. They're really the heart of the program, and you have a list here of each of the elementary schools and the teacher who's assigned to each of those schools, and then their email address, because if you have questions specifically about the program, you're certainly encouraged to reach out to these teachers who can respond and get back to you. And also you have my email address there as well, because I'm always available for any questions you may have about the program at any level, whether it be the elementary program, the middle schools, or the high school program. And I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Wojcik.
Thank you, Dr. Balsamo. At this point, we reached the end of our presentation, but we know it's just the beginning of the opportunity to learn more about our world language program. And as Dr. Balsamo said, please, we'll post this to the website, but if you have any questions or any other things you want to know about our wonderful and fabulous world language program, your world language teachers are available, your school's principal is available, Dr. Balsamo is available. There's lots of people here who are supporting our world language program and ensuring that our students are engaging in really wonderfully culturally diverse opportunities. And so we thank you this evening. We don't have any questions in the chat, so we are grateful that you joined us this evening. We hope you had an opportunity to see some of our learning in action. And I think Ms. Marr said it, even though we have these three fabulous teachers here from different schools, they represent all of our world language teachers and our programs, and we are really proud of the great work that they do in sharing the cultural joy with your children. So we thank you so much for joining us this evening, and we will post this to the website. So if you would like to engage with the program and with the presentation, it will be there for you under elementary curriculum presentations. So thank you again for joining us this evening, and we wish you all a wonderful night.